Welcome back, and today we are going to see modularization techniques in ABAP. What is meant by this modularization techniques, and why generally we will use this modularization techniques? Modularization techniques are followed to organize your program in better way. Whenever you are writing very huge lines of code in your program, it is better to divide your code and call the code in a particular sequence. So that is what called modularization technique. So otherwise, whenever you develop some program, very big program, whenever some other person has to support the same program, the same application, if you have not organized or not maintained your program properly, they may feel that difficult to understand the program. So to avoid that, what we'll do is we will try to divide the program into different sets or different pieces or different blocks or whatever, and to try to write code inside that. And second advantage of modularization is when you divide a code, for example, for some functionality I'm writing some certain set of code. In the same program, if I need the same kind of code again and again, no need to write the same code again and again. Instead of that, you declare the code as a block and call the same block again and again. It's more or less like functions in your C, but basic concept is you declare a block of code and call the block of code whenever it's needed. There are two advantages. The first advantage is better understanding of the program is possible, and second advantage is you can repeat or you can read the same set of code instead of repeating it. So we'll see what are all the modularization techniques possible in ABAP. So there is first thing is called subroutines. Second, there is something called function modules. Third, there is something called includes. You can also say methods are also modularization techniques in ABAP. There is something called macros. But macros nowadays we are not using. The disadvantage is you cannot debug macros. So if somebody says why we are not using macros, so the problem is you cannot debug. So that is the main problem. So nowadays we are not using macros in ABAP, but previously there were some macros written in ABAP. So these are all various modularization techniques. So today we will see subroutine, how to handle a subroutine, how to pass the data between subroutines, what is global data, what is local data, and so on. So here I will create a program. I think I will take the program which we have done in our last class. I think inner join or something we have done it in the last class. So let me take the program. Okay. See what we have done here. What we tried is we declared one structure, internal table, work area. We had some parameters. We have written a select query, and after that select query, we had some write statement and so on. So now what I'll do is I'll try to copy the same program, try to implement subroutine for this. 20 is already there. So I will copy the same program in a different program. So now here, this is my data declaration part. Until now here I am declaring data statements. Here some parameters, selection screen is there. Here some select query is there. And after that, if size of is equal to 0, do something else, do something or something like this. This is your program we have seen in the last class. Now, how can we do the same thing by using a subroutine? Now, instead of writing code directly like this, what you have to do is you write perform get data. The perform is a keyword. If you observe, this is in blue color, so this is a keyword for a subroutine. Get data is the name of the subroutine. Instead of get data, you can give any name. Get data, you can say get data from table, or you can say bring data, whatever. It's a name. So whenever you give this perform and then a name of the subroutine, double click on that. System says this particular subroutine is not available. Shall I create it? Yes, create it. Where to create? It's asking, shall I create the subroutine in a new include or in the same program? As of now, we don't know what is the include, so I will select the main program and continue. See what happening. So now if you see here, what I have done, I have written a keyword perform and then get data. When I double click, what happening? A block is created for me. This is a block. The block is starting with form, ending with end form. Form get data, end form. So if always form is concluded with end form. Now what I'll do is, whatever the syntax I have written here, I will cut it. I'll cut it and paste it over inside this subroutine. Okay, so like this. Now what happened? The cursor comes here. It looks perform get data. When it sees the perform get data, the program sets, okay, for perform get data, there will be somewhere form get data where it is. So it searches here, it goes inside, then it executes the code. If everything is size of is 0, then your read statement will be executed and so on. Your write statement will be executed and so on. So let us see in debugging how this goes. So if you activate your program, put a breakpoint over here to see the behavior. Execute. Plant, I'll give some, last session we were giving some plant here. Okay, 2505. See what happening. Now my cursor is at line number 26. Perform get data. So when the cursor sees the perform get data, it will automatically goes inside form get data. When I click F5 here, see now it is from here it is jumping into line number 39. So it is going inside the form get data. So once it went to the form get data, the remaining things are same. Here it will execute, and then if size of is 0, it will read the data from the internal table, put it into the work area. If this material is there, it will write, otherwise it will not write it. Okay. If the read condition satisfies, it will write, otherwise it will not write, and so on. So now because the material is not there in the read statement, this read statement is getting failed, so it is not writing. What I'll do is, instead of read, I will make it loop so that you can see some output. What is the difference between a read table and a loop? Loop will write all the data one after the other. Read will check whether the condition what you are giving is satisfied or not, and if condition satisfies, then it will bring the first record of which the condition is getting satisfied into work area, and it writes the particular work area. Now save check activate. Now I'll execute. So now you can see control goes into form get data, select query is executed, then your loop is writing the output. If you see, the output is getting printed. Now the next step, what I would like to tell you is, here I'm going to tell you how to call a subroutine inside another subroutine. For example, see what this part is doing. This part, loop at iTab into a work area and writing. This part is displaying the output, right? So this part, the select query is getting the data from the database, and the other part, it is trying to display the output. Even this part, entire size of RC and so on. So here what I will do is, I will cut this part. I'll cut this part, and I will say perform display output. So I'm declaring one more subroutine. This subroutine is called inside form get data. Now I'll double click on this perform display output. If everything is okay, then select main program. Inside the main program, write this if size of RC equal to 0, loop iTab into work area, write, and so on. So let us see how the cursor movement is. So I'll keep the breakpoint over here. So now what happening? I'll click on F5. So I'm going inside the perform get data. Form get data is executed. Now select query is getting executed. After select query, what happening? Perform display output is getting executed. So when I click F5, now it will check where the form display output is. The control goes inside form display output. It will try to execute the code inside that, and it writes the output. So here, this is how you will call a subroutine inside another subroutine. One more important point is, after this total output, like after displaying the output, I want to write one more line saying end of the report. For example, after displaying my output, I want to say end of the report. Can I write some statement here after the end form? So can I say here write end of the report or something like this? I want to write. Can I write here after this subroutine? If I save it, check it, what it is saying, there is an error. Error says that statement is not accessible. So don't write any executable statements after the end form. So when you have a form end form in your program, so after the form end form, don't write any kind of statements. Don't write a write syntax or select or loop kind of syntaxes after the form and end form. So where exactly I can write this? So instead of writing here, I can write maybe here in line number 50, or I can write in line number 27. So this could be the appropriate places to write this end of report. Then how the program executes. So now let us see the control once again. So first, when we see the perform get data, control goes into the form get data, executes the select query, control goes into the line number 50. When it sees a perform display output, control goes into the form display output. Everything is okay, so then it is looping, writing and so on. So there are some 11 records, so 11 times the loop is getting repeated. So after this 11 times, where your control goes, from where it came from perform display output. So you can see from perform display output it came, so it came and see it's checking. So after perform display output, is there anything here? No, because nothing is there here. Again it is going back from where it came here. It came from perform get data. So after perform get data, what is there? This write statement is there. So now it will execute the write statement and prints your output. So here you are getting the end of the report. So this is how your flow will be. One important point we should remember here is the data which you declared on the top of the program. We'll call it as a global data. The data which is declared, if any, inside the subroutine is called local data. We have not declared any data syntaxes inside the subroutine, but if you have declared it, then we'll call it as local data. What is the difference between a global data and local data? Global data is accessible across all the subroutines. So all these subroutines or all these blocks, whatever it may be, this block or this block, all these blocks can access your global data. But local data is accessible only within the block, because local data you will declare inside the particular subroutine. For example, I will declare a work area here. I will say, instead of declaring a work area here on the top, see here I have declared a work area, right? So instead of declaring this work area here, I will declare work area inside this subroutine. Data work area type TYMAT. So now this work area is a local work area which is only specific to this block, this subroutine. So this subroutine doesn't know what is WA. In this subroutine, if you have not used anywhere the WA, but if you could have used that particular work area, the program could have given error now. So now there is no problem, because this particular subroutine only using the work area. Here see, I am writing loop at itab into work area. So this work area is used only in this subroutine. In this subroutine, the work area is not used. So there is no problem. I can declare the work area as local work area. For example, internal table is there here. So this internal table I will declare locally. Then what will happen? Say now I will declare this internal table here. So only this particular subroutine knows what is itab. Itab means what. But if you see, this particular subroutine is also using itab. if this itab is global, both the subroutines know what is itab. But now what happened? Only this subroutine knows. So now when I save it, check it, I'm getting an error. The second subroutine says, boss, I don't know what is itab. Why it doesn't know? Because the itab is declared inside the subroutine. So this is a local data now, local to this particular subroutine. The other subroutine doesn't know this itab. So this is what is the difference between a global data and local data. If you declare something on the global, all your programming subroutines can access that particular data, that particular variable. But only the disadvantage is when you declare a global data, a memory will be allocated for your program throughout. Say for example, I have a very big program. I have some 10 internal tables, 20 work areas and so many things in my program. If you declare everything on the global, on the top of the program, maybe for writing the program it will be easy for you, but memory wise when you think, so for all these internal tables, for all these work areas, memory will be allocated throughout the program. To minimize that memory, what SAP recommends you is to always declare local data. So in for example here, if you see in this subroutine, if you allocate memory for this work area, that's enough. Why to allocate a work area memory on the top of the program? So in this subroutine only this work area is useful to, so declare this particular variable only within this subroutine. So always try to use local variables as much as possible to optimize your memory or optimize your performance. Sometimes what will happen, you will come across the scenarios where a local data is there. For example, this internal table is a local internal table. So this internal table I want to pass from here to here, from this subroutine to this subroutine. I want to pass on the local data from one subroutine to another subroutine. How to do that? So what is the case? How to pass local variables or local work area or local internal tables, so that is local data declarations or local data I'll say, from one subroutine to another subroutine. So when you want to pass local data from one subroutine to another subroutine, you have three keywords. The first keyword is called using, second one is called changing, third one is called tables. Again, this tables keyword is an obsolete. Nowadays we are not using this tables keyword, but we are using keyword and changing keyword. So now what is this using, what is changing, we'll see. So whenever you want to pass a local variables or work areas or internal tables from one subroutine to another subroutine, you can make use of this using, changing or tables keywords. So here if you see, we have a requirement of passing an internal table from this subroutine to this subroutine. Okay, passing an internal table. Passing an internal table, if you have to understand, before that you need to understand how can we pass variables, how can we pass work areas. If I have declared a work area, how can I pass a work area? Then we can see how to pass an internal table. So to avoid this syntactic error, I will place this itab on the top. First I will tell you how to pass a variable, then I will tell you how to pass a work area, then I will tell you how to pass the internal table. So first we are going to learn how to pass a variable. For example, here I have a variable. I will say here describe table itab lines LV count. This LV count I have declared inside this subroutine. Assume I have a variable in my form get data. So now this variable LV count is a local variable. So in line number 49, I will get some records into this LV count. So now I want to pass that value to perform display output. So how can I pass? Make use of any one of this keyword. What are all the keywords? Using, changing a tables. Now I am using a using keyword. I'll say using LV count. Here in the form also I will say using LV count. So in the perform also you should say using LV count. In the form also, corresponding form also you should say using LV count. So the value from of the LV count is passing from here to here, and then you can make use of this particular LV count in this subroutine. So how can you can make use of that? So you may use a write statement here. Write total number of records LV count. So now I'll save it, check it, activate. Execute. So now you can see here total number of records 11. 11 is coming. So describe table syntax we have already discussed. What it is doing, describe table syntax, it is counting the number of records inside the internal table. If the internal table has 11 records, after describe table syntax your count, LV count will be 11. If your internal table has 1000 records, then LV count will store the particular 1000. So now when I execute this in a debugging mode, see here what happened. My internal table itab got 11 records. If I go inside this internal table, I have 11 records here. You can see 11 records. So after describe table syntax, this LV count, it should get 11. So when I press F5, LV count becomes 11. You can see that. Now what I am doing, this LV count I am passing into perform display output. So when I click F5, that LV count is coming up into this subroutine. So once the count comes into this subroutine, you use that count in a write statement or maybe in some other way. You can make use of that particular variable. So this is how you will pass a variable from one subroutine to another subroutine. Not only single variable. Maybe if you have n number of variables, say 5 variables, so LV count is there. Similarly, you want to pass side item, that means current date. If you want to pass, sorry, not here, here in the subroutine I can give that. So here not only LV count, I can pass the date, I can also pass something else, n number of variables you have to pass. You will capture that n number of variables here. Say for example, now I am passing 2 variables to this subroutine. I will capture here. So now LV count will come and sit in this LV count. Side item will come and sit in LV date. No need to give the same name. Say for example, here if I give LV count, no need to give the same LV count here. I can also give here some L underscore count. So here the name could be different, here name could be different. Similarly here I am giving side item, here I will give LV date or whatever I like. Whatever the first parameter here, that will come into the first parameter of form. Whatever is here, that will come into here. Okay. So now my value LV count in the subroutine is known as L underscore count. So whenever you are using this instead of using LV count, you say always L underscore count, because in the subroutine knows only L underscore count. So always use this. Similarly, the datum, side datum is coming and sitting into this LV date. So if you want to print it LV date, you can print like this. So when you are passing values, you can pass like that. N number of variables you can pass, not only single variable. So one important point here, theoretical point again. So we have some parameters which are declared with the perform statement. So I'll say the parameters which are declared with perform statement are called actual parameters. Okay, and the parameters which are declared with a form statement are called formal parameters. So the parameters which are declared with form statement are called formal parameters. Now in our example, see what are all the parameters we have declared in the perform statement. In this perform statement, we have declared two parameters. One is LV count, another one is side item. These two are called actual parameters. In the form, we have two parameters, L underscore count, LV date. These two are called formal parameters. So whatever the parameters you declare along with the form statement, so those are called formal parameters. Tomorrow, for example, here you are passing two variables. Here you are passing two variables and you are capturing only one here. System will give an error. So system will say you are passing two variables to the subroutine, but you are capturing only one here in the form. So see what kind of error you are getting. Now when I check it, what it says, the number of formal parameters equal to 1, but number of actual parameters equal to 2. So now what is actual parameters? Actual parameters means this. Formal parameters means the parameters which you are used with form. So if you see the error, you can understand. So these are called formal parameters, these are called actual parameters. And number of actual parameters, number of actual and formal parameters should be same always. So here you should give another parameter to capture this date value. So this is how you can pass on variables from one subroutine to another subroutine. Any questions here? We are going to see how to pass on work areas and internal tables, but before going to that, if you have any questions, let me know.
Ram, the order should be same, right?
Yeah, the order should be the same, but name can be different. That means here, if you have LV count, name here could be L count or whatever, XYZ, whatever. But order should be same. So first it will capture that count, second date, and so on.
Okay.
Ram, I have one query here.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you declare variables as global variables, so it would allocate, so system would allocate memory to them, right?
Yeah, correct.
What about local variables? Local variables also occupy some memory, right?
Local variable also it will allocate a memory, but that memory is valid when the cursor is in this subroutine. See, your program, when the program is executing, program means the entire lines of code which we have written. So how many lines of code is there now? Line number 24 till the end of the program, line number 75. So throughout all the execution of all these lines, you have allocated memory if you declare a variable here on the top. Got it what I'm saying? If I declare a work area here on the top, so when I'm executing all the 50 lines, throughout all these 50 lines, I have allocated memory for the work area. Instead of that, if I declare inside this, then only when the program is executing these 4 or 5 lines, until that only the memory is allocated for this work area.
Okay.
Got it what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is advantage, like you are allocating memory only when it is required, instead of declaring and keeping it throughout.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
That way you can optimize. Anything else?
Okay.
Fine. So now if you want to send the work area from one subroutine to another subroutine, how can you send? What I will say is, assume I have declared a work area here in this subroutine, and from this subroutine I want to pass this work area to this particular subroutine. How can I pass? You say here LV count side item, here work area also. Here you say here also work area. So it will come, not a problem. But what I recommend is, when you are using any work area or even variable also, always specify the data type. Okay, so here what I'll say is work area type. What is how we have declared the work area? ty underscore mat, right? So specify this. Otherwise, sometimes the system will assume this as a variable. If you don't specify like this, system assumes this is a variable, but actually this is not a variable, this is a work area. It has set of fields. How the system come to know it has a set of fields? If you give the reference. So if you, when you say like this, then system knows, okay, so this is a work area. Whatever the content you have provided here, that will come and store here. Even I will say for variables also, you do such a way. For example, here you are saying LV count, you are capturing this here LV count, then you say LV count type what? I stands for integer. Similarly, LV date type D stands for date. Similarly, work area type ty mat. So I always recommend you to provide the data type also in the formal parameters. It is a better way of doing the coding. If you don't provide also, not a problem, but if you provide it, so you can avoid some sort of problems. Like when I don't provide something for a work area, for example, I have not provided here, system will assume that it's a variable. System will not think it is a work area. Okay, so like this you can pass work areas. What about the internal table? How can I pass the internal table? Here I will say I am passing itab. Here I have to get the itab. How can I say? I will say itab type what? Let us see how we declare the itab. Itab type table of tymat. So can I give like this? Let us see. If I give like this, what it is saying? Okay, so assume I have given like this. Then I will save it. When I check, it is giving error now. So it is saying the end form is unknown, blah blah blah. It is saying it doesn't know what is okay end form, because here I forget to put a dot. I'll put a dot here, check again. So it is saying number of formal parameters, actual parameters are different. It is feeling that number of actual formal parameters are different. That is because of this syntax, type table of tymat. So you should not give type table of. Instead of that, you should give something else here. You should give something else here, so that this should be an internal table. Something like you are giving a structure here, then it is become a work area, right? In the same way, what you should provide here so that it becomes an internal table. You need to provide something here so that it should becoming an internal table. What is that you should provide here? We already saw this. We learned this in the last classes.
Table type.
Yes.
Table type.
Exactly. Table type we need to provide here. Okay. So first you need to declare the table type. How to declare the table type? Go on to the top of the program. Say here types, some ABC, XYZ or whatever, type table of TYMAT. So ABC is my table type, which is also having the same syntax as that of my internal table, but for this memory is not there. So this ABC you provide here. So when you provide a table type here, whatever is there, that will become an internal table. So now I'll save it, check it and activate. So in this way you can transfer the internal table. So when you are transferring internal table, provide a table type in the formal parameter. So here the names can be different always. Here if it is iTab is there, here you can say JTab. Here I can say JTab, not a problem. So when I say JTab here, I should loop the JTab, not iTab. Loop at JTab into work area and write the content of that. So this way I can do. So now I'll save it, check it, activate. Put a breakpoint over here, execute. Now what is there in LV count? 11. Side item, what is there? Something there. Work area and internal table. Internal table has 11 records. Work area, as of now there is nothing in the work area. So all these things I want to pass it on to formal parameters. So when I click F5, I came inside this. So whatever is there previously in LV count, that is now given to L underscore count. You can see L underscore count is 11. Similarly LV date. Similarly work area. WA, same work area. And JTab. Now JTab has 11 records. Previously whatever the records are available in iTab, those records are given to JTab. So now you loop and write in the JTab. So this is the way of transferring data from one subroutine to another subroutine. So now we are going to see there is one more concept. So here if you see there are two keywords, right? So first keyword is using, second keyword is changing, and the other one is tables. There are three keywords. So tables is anyway obsolete. Then we have to discuss about using and changing. As of now we were discussing about using keyword. So using and changing are something like pass by value and pass by reference previously. But nowadays after Unicode conversions there is no big difference between using and changing. Previously using and changing were used to pass by value and pass by reference. If you know what is a pass by value, pass by reference, if you could have understand already. If you don't know what is a pass by value, pass by reference, we are going to discuss that now. So I'll create a sample program. I'll say parameters num1 type I, num2 type I, and I'll say one variable here I'll declare, otherwise I'll say perform do underscore sum. I'll double click on this, create the subroutine by selecting the main program. Here I will say data num3 type integer, perform, or I'll say first here num3 equal to num1 plus num2, perform write output. Double click on this subroutine, write output. Then here I will say write num3, but num3 is a local variable which is declared in this, so I should pass num3 from here to here. How can I pass? By using keyword, using num3 here. I will capture that using num3 here. So I am passing this num3 from this subroutine to this subroutine, and I am printing it. Until this everything works fine. So I can give a different name also. Here if I give a num3, here I can give another name. Another name is sum, for example. Here I will write the sum. After writing the sum, if I say clear sum, so what I have done, after writing the sum, I am clearing the sum. So after line number 39, where my cursor goes to line number 27, right? Because from line number 26 my cursor came here, it executed this code. So after execution of this code, it should go to line number 27. In the line number 27, I will say write num3. So now tell me what will be the num3. For example, assume I will give some num1 as a 10. For example, here num1 I will give a 10, num2 I will give 20. Assume I will give this input. Have a look into this program. So first the control comes here, and then the control comes here. So 10 plus 20, that becomes a 30. So you are saying perform write output using that 30. So this 30 will be given to the sum. In the output 30 will be written. After that I am clearing the 30. So from the variable sum, I am clearing that value 30. So now I'll come back here. So what will be the value by the time in num3, whether it will be still 30 or this is also gets cleared? That's what my question is. So think and tell me.
It will be 30.
It will be 30 after clearing also. Let us see. I'll put a breakpoint over here. Perform do sum. So here I'll put 10. Here I'll put 20. Execute. So I'm coming to this perform do sum. Let me go inside this form do sum. Num1 is 10. num2 is 20, and after execution of this, num3 becomes 30. You can see num3 is 30. So now that 30, whatever is there in this num3, 30 is there, that 30 I am passing to sum. So now I am writing the sum. After that I have cleared the sum. Now you can see the sum is 0. Now when I go back, what is num3? Num3 is also 0. See, the value of num3 you have given to sum. If you clear the sum, num3 is also getting cleared. Indirectly, the variable num3 and sum both are referring to the same memory location. So what I meant to say is, whatever is there in this num3, it is stored in a memory location. The sum is also referring to the same memory location. If you clear the sum, the num3 is also getting cleared, because both are referring to same memory location. So this kind of concept is called pass by reference. Pass by reference. Pass by reference means both the parameters are, whenever two variables are referring to the same memory location, we'll call that kind of concept as pass by reference concept. So if you clear one variable, other variable is also getting affected. So this is called pass by reference. There is something called pass by value. Pass by value means what? So here I said using num3, here I will say using value sum. I have added a keyword called value. Now see what's happening. Save it, check it, activate. Now I'll execute. Same input I'll provide. Now if you see, I am passing this num3. What is num3 is 30, right? So that 30 I am passing to this subroutine. So now what happened? Whatever the value is there in num3, that num3 value came into this sum. Now sum is 30. Now I have written the sum in the output. I have cleared the value in the sum. When I go back, if you can see still the 30 is there in the num3. So this kind of concept is called pass by value. Pass by value means basically you are referring, that means the variable which you provide here, a variable which you provide here, both are referring to different memory locations. If you change the content of one memory location, other memory location content is not getting affected. But in the previous case, both are referring to the same memory location. So that is called pass by reference concept. And this is called pass by value concept. So there are two ways of achieving this. Okay, like this. To say here, so what I'm going to say here is, if you can see this, using changing keywords, so these have invented to fulfill this purpose, pass by value, pass by reference concepts. Okay, so this is what about your using, changing, and tables keyword also, like you can make use of the table keyword instead of using, changing. Tables keywords generally used to transfer internal tables. You can still use, if you want, you can make use of the tables keyword now also, but it's a old way of doing the coding. It's obsolete way of doing the coding. Fine. So just replace your using keyword with the changing. You are changing keyword with the table syntax. That's it. Here, if you are instead of using, if you want to replace, use changing here, and don't use changing here. If you are using changing here also, you need to use changing here also. In the perform statement, whatever the syntax you are using, that you should use in the form also. Similarly, tables. If you are using tables here, then make use of the tables. But when you are using tables, make sure that you are passing an internal table here and receiving an internal table here. That's the only difference. So with this, most of the things we have completed in the subroutines now. So in the subroutines, basically you should understand what is the local and global variables, what is the difference between local and global variables, how to call one subroutine from another subroutine, what are the formal parameters, what are the actual parameters, and this pass by value and pass by reference concept. Fine. So the next modularization technique is function module, but function module we will discuss in our next session. Before that, I would recommend you to practice this subroutines. Before going to the function module, so we will discuss a small leftover topic in the internal tables. Basically, there are two types of internal tables. With respect to header line. Two types of internal based on header line. What is a header line? Header lines means a work area. So we saw a couple of syntaxes like some internal table iTab, type table of some structure. We have also seen some other syntax like occurs 01. We have seen some other syntax type table of some structure with header line and so on. So there are various syntaxes to declare internal tables. So when you try to classify internal tables with respect to internal tables, there are two types. One is internal table with header line. First one is with header line. Second one is without header line. So with header line syntax generally like this: data, some internal table, type, some structure name, you should specify structure name, type table of you should say, and after that you should also say with header line. So if you specify like this, it will become an internal table with header line. And if you specify only till this, then this is a internal table, but it doesn't have a header line. That means it doesn't have a work area. You need to declare a different work area for this. In this case, your internal table name is also ABC, your work area name is also ABC. But in this case, you have a different name for internal table body and different name for work area. So based on header line, internal tables are divided into two categories. Based on sorting technique, internal tables are divided into three types. So based on sorting, internal tables are divided into three types. First kind of internal table, we'll call it as standard internal tables. Second one is called sorted internal table. The third one is called hashed internal tables. So there are three categories of internal tables are there. When you classify the internal table based on sorting technique. So what is this? Generally, any internal table by default is a standard internal table. For example, if you take this internal table or if you take this internal table, by default, it is a standard internal table. Otherwise, what you can do is, you can also declare the syntax like this. So for example, I'll say data ABC type standard table of some structure, maybe Mara structure or MAKT, otherwise you can say Z student, whatever the structure which you have declared in AC11, you can make use of that structure here, or whatever the structure you declare in the program, that you can make use of ty underscore something or whatever. So this is a standard internal table. ABC is a standard internal table. And remember, standard internal table will always follow linear search algorithm. Linear search algorithm. What is the linear search algorithm? When I am searching some record of this internal table, I will go always one by one. For example, I have an internal table like this. I have an internal table like this. So here I have my first field is employee ID or whatever, some field is there. In this some numbers are there, 1, 2, 3 like this, some numbers are there. Like this, assume some 1000 records are there in this internal table. Now I am searching for record number 16, for example. So I want to put a record, whose employee ID is 16 into work area, for example. Then how this standard internal table will search? It will search, first it will check if 1 equal to the 16, our requirement is we need to get the 16 as a ID. It will check the first record, whether it is 16, no, whether it is 16, no, whether it is no. Like that, it will check one by one, and finally when it found the 16, okay, then it will put it to the work area. Then it will meet the search criteria, what I meant to say. So this kind of searching is called a linear search. One after the other, one after the other. When it is searching, we'll call it as linear search. When your internal table has more and more number of records, it will take more time, because say for example tomorrow if your internal table has a 1 lakh records, in the 1 lakh you are trying to search the bottom record, then it is difficult for a linear search syntax. Now there is something called sorted internal table. You can also declare an internal table as a sorted internal table. The syntax is almost same. Something like this, ABC type. Instead of standard, you should say sorted. So here you should say based on what field it should be sorted, with unique key. For example, employee ID is there. Employee ID should be unique, EMP ID. And you can also specify with non-unique key, EMP name. For example, the second field of my internal table is employee name. So maybe two IDs will have a same name. That is a non-unique key. But employee ID should be always unique. So that's what I'm specifying here. So when you are declaring a sorted internal table, you should specify what is the unique key, what is the field which is having unique key, what is the field which is having non-unique key. So sorted internal table will follow binary search algorithm. What is a binary search? For example, I have 1,000 records. In the 1,000 records, I'm trying to fetch some 894th record. So binary means 2. Generally, binary means 0 and 1, right? So whenever we see 0 and 1, we'll say binary. 0 is one number and 1 is another number. So totally there are 2 numbers. Binary means 2. So binary search algorithm, what it will do is, if the internal table has 1,000 records, the 1,000 records will be divided into 2 halves. First half of the record is from 1 to 500. Second half is from 501 to 1000. So now your 894 is greater than 501. Then what it will do is, it will ignore the first half. In the first half, no need to search, because your 894 will always fall between 501 and 1000. So again, the 501 and 1000 will be divided into 2 halves. 501 to 750, 751 to 1000. Now it will again check. 894 is falling between 501 to 750 or 750 to 1000. So it is falling between 750 to 1000. So it will ignore the records from 501 to 750. Now from 751 to 1000, it will again divide into 2 halves. So your search goes like that. So that is called binary search. And binary search is fast when compared to linear search. So binary search is faster when compared to linear search. So there is one more thing called hash internal table. The syntax is something like this. Data ABC type, instead of sorted, you will give hash. Only unique key is permitted, non-unique key is not allowed. In the sorted table, unique and non-unique keys both are allowed, but in a hashed, you should specify only unique key. Because unique keys are there in this table, in your hash table, the search is direct. So here it will follow some algorithm called hash algorithm. So the search is direct and it will directly pick up the record based on the unique key. For example, 13 is there, 13 is unique in my internal table. It will directly look into this 13 and picks the particular 13, put it into the work area. It's a unique because it has always the unique records, hashed internal tables. So getting the data is always easy, very easy. So that is what called hash algorithm. So there are 3 different types of internal tables when you are talking with respect to sorting techniques. There are 2 types of internal tables when you are talking with respect to header lines. So remember this will help you in your interviews. Sometimes you will get questions on this. Fine, so this is the small theory part which I want to tell you, which is behind internal tables. So we'll end up today here, and we'll meet tomorrow. If you have any other questions, please make a note and we'll discuss in the next class. See you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Ram. Bye.